Well, brilliant listeners, Halloween is finally here, and I am honored that you have allowed me to be a part of your special day. To help you get in the mood this Halloween, I have got a spectacular show lined up for you, showcasing the Show Me State. I've got the weird, the spooky, and the straight up terrifying for you. Stay tuned for accounts told to me by brilliant listeners. I've got a personal experience to share with you. I have Jason Offutt sharing a couple of bizarre stories from Missouri. I've got John Sellars sharing a personal ghost encounter. And John LeMay is going to tell us about Jesse James Phantom Horseman. Darren Marlor, host of Weird Darkness, sent in a segment on the notorious Elms Resort in Excelsior Springs. And Russell Reynolds of Beyond Life Paranormal Missouri out of Breckinridge brings the scary as he shares tales of his investigations, guaranteed to make your blood run cold. So be sure to hang around as Brilliant sets the mood this Halloween special edition of Brilliant. I'm Alan Brill. Welcome to Brilliant, a podcast from the mind of Brill. Warning, it gets dark in here. You simply cannot have a Paranormal Missouri themed special without having on my Nick storyteller. Returning to Brilliant to keep this fear train rolling on the tracks this Halloween, I have the author of Paranormal Missouri, Show Me Your Monsters, Haunted Missouri, What Lurks Beyond the Paranormal in Your Own Backyard, and award-winning fiction like A Bad Day for the Apocalypse, The Girl in the Corn, and of course, his newest book, Chasing North American Monsters. He teaches journalism at State Northwest Missouri State University. Jason Offutt, welcome back to Brilliant.
Hey, I'm really glad you invited me back on it. It really means a lot to me when somebody invites me back on their show because that means I didn't screw up too much the first time.
Oh no, I was tickled pink to have you back.
Well, thank you.
So do you have some show me state spookiness to share with our folks this Halloween as we keep this special driving on?
Well, yeah, absolutely, I do. The very first one I'm going to tackle. I mean, these aren't going to be that spooky, but they're definitely in the paranormal realm. Back in the 1990s, especially, I listened to Art Bell.
Oh
I
yeah.
think a lot of people did. Art Bell was he was the master. He was great at paranormal radio. And one story that he read one night was about a guy who lived in Missouri who tried to build a time machine. And this was in 95, I think it was. And he got caught. But the reason he was in the news, he was reading this was a story in the New York Times, for God's sakes, and he was reading it. The guy tried to build a time machine, and he got caught because when he turned the time machine on, it shut power down for half the city. All right, so I listened to that, and I'm like, that's really cool. And it turned out to be uh, Mike Markham, and Art named him Madman, Mike Madman Markham. He had him on for a couple of more shows, and I'll fill you in on all of your listeners in on all of this in a second. But Art had him on twice more, and the last time Art had him on, because Mike had been on his show before, uh, so many people were interested in this in time travel that they donated enough money that Mike was able to build a time machine big enough for a human, powerful enough for a human to go through, and then he vanished. He just literally disappeared, fell off the map. Um, and where I'm living now, I was listening to that an old episode, and Art was interviewing him, and the town they were talking about was about 25 minutes away from where I lived. I'm like, hell, I gotta go there. So I went to Stanberry, Missouri, and interviewed the arresting officer. I interviewed somebody who worked at the power station, um, and I ended up interviewing a lot of people who knew Mike Markham. What had happened was he had traveled from Ohio to Stanberry, Missouri. He was following a girl,
Of course.
and when he ended up in Missouri, she dumped him. Okay. You could read that coming. And
Yeah.
he was sitting around his house, which I've been to. He was sitting around his house, and he was into electricity. He built a Jacob's ladder, which is you get two metal poles that are vertical. You feed electricity in the bottom, and they kind of go between pole to pole until they get to the top, and it's too far away, and the electric current isn't strong enough, and it zips out.
Like you see in all the mad scientist movies in the background.
Exactly. Every single mad scientist movie's got a Jacob's ladder. And he built it and he turned it on. And at the very top of the Jacob's ladder was a heat signature, kind of a circle, and that was wavering. And he was like, that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. So he picked up, I mean, you might study that, but being a guy, he picked up something and threw it at it, and it hit the he it was a finishing screw. It hit the heat signature and vanished. And about 15 seconds later, it appeared out of nowhere and hit the table. And I'm not sure if I would have done that, what I would have thought, but he immediately thought I invented a time machine.
Of course.
So he set out to build a man-sized one that he could jump through. And he didn't want to do this, for the betterment of mankind. He wanted to go 3 days in the future, get the lottery numbers, and come back. That's what he wanted to do. You know why? Because that's the American thing to do.
USA. USA.
Right. So what he needed power. He had everything. He went ahead and built everything, a man-sized Jacob's ladder in his kitchen, but he needed more power that he couldn't get through his house. So he and a couple guys that he knew went and stole 6 power line transformers from St. Joseph Power and Light. And it was funny. One of them he had hollowed out and turned into a penny bank, but one of them he rewired to where it would produce even more power and hooked everything up. And he was going to jump through this thing and go into the future. He turned it on, and like I said, the lights to the town went out, and he was tracked down and arrested. And the officer I interviewed said, um, I don't know if he was really, I don't know if he really invented a time machine, but he thought he did.
Right.
All right, so I mean that was pretty impressive to me. Once he got out of jail, Art interviewed him. Art also interviewed the arresting officer, but Mike started getting this money rolling in, and he moved to nearby St. Joseph, Missouri, and started his experiments again. An article in the St. Joe News Press about this. There were rumors going on that Mike was throwing cats through his machine, and this is a direct quote from Mike. That cat thing, it just ain't true.
There you go.
All right, this guy's inventing a time machine. Um, Eventually, it got to the point to where he had enough money to rent a warehouse down in Kansas City, and he built an enormous version of his machine, and he was going to jump through it. And he told Art he was going to jump through it, and then Art couldn't get a hold of him again. However, I got a hold of people he knew in St. Joe, and they said that yeah, he was gone. He used to come over to our house all the time and eat dinner, and I'd always send him a Christmas card. He'd always send me one, and he just hasn't done it. Um, I was able to track down Mike, and I talked to him about what happened, and he said that when he was in his when he was in the warehouse, he had perfected it. He thought. So he started throwing fruit, like grapefruit, fruit through the time machine to see what happened, and they'd disappear. Later, he'd find this grapefruit lying out in the parking lot, which makes sense because all these time machine movies are wrong. Because if you go into the future or into the past, you will reappear in the future and in the past at exactly where you left it. Okay, the Earth's going like this, the solar system's going like this, the galaxy's going like this. So if you are a day in the future, you're already out in the into deep space
Yep.
somewhere. So you're gonna die. So he figured that that was just what happened, man. He threw it, it went there, boom. And so he was ready to go. And he bought some guinea pigs and he tossed guinea pigs into it. And they did the same as the grapefruit, except for they were dead.
Well, you know.
But he thought that's just because they were too little. So he jumped in himself. He wound up in a field outside of Cincinnati. He had no idea who he was. He was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and it was winter now. And somebody found him, took him to a homeless shelter. He ended up spending time in a mental place, in a mental hospital, because he had no idea who he was.
Right.
After a couple of years, the memories started coming back to him, and he got a job and raised enough money to go back to Kansas City to look at his warehouse, and somebody else had bought it and everything was gone. After I interviewed him, I wrote about this, and I got contacted by so many people wanting to talk to him and give him money. And every time I'd ask him, Mike, do you want to talk to these people? He's like, no, I'm finished. I'm not doing this
Yeah.
anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, he was like had 2 semesters of college or something. This is just a naturally
Right. He just
brilliant
well,
slash.
brilliant people are a little bit on the nutty side. Well, the guy who invented television, Philo T. Farnsworth, didn't go to college. He just knew a lot about electricity, and that's kind of what Mike reminded me of.
And like when I think somebody asked him once, like, "Well, how'd you steal the transformers?" Well, they're just on the side of the road. So
They were just laying on the side of the road, right? Just let's just pick them up and take them off. Who cares about the hazardous chemicals inside? No big deal. Just take them.
just throw them in the truck. That side of the road, they're free, right? I mean,
Right.
okay. So you got another one lined up for us, or
Well, yeah, the I wrote a book, God, back in it got published back in 2009 called What Lurks Beyond the Paranormal in Your Backyard. And what I did was I put took a map and I put a circle that was 100 miles radius of my house. And this one fell just outside, but it's a great story. Back in the 1930s in Marshall, Missouri, which is close to central Missouri. There was a guy named Sam Van Arsdale who owned a hotel, the Ruff Hotel, RUFF. And he was a hunter, and a friend of his uh, sent him a dog. He's like, I'm going to give you this dog. It's an English Llewellyn setter. It's the runt of the litter. So if you want to go hunting, here's the runt. Haha, it's the runt. Who cares? Well, what Van Arsdale discovered was that this runt was the best hunting dog he'd ever been around. It was able to find birds everywhere, and it was featured as a great hunting dog in a lot of magazines, a lot of hunting magazines around the country. And then Van Arsdale realized that this dog was a little bit more than just a hunting dog. His name was Jim, and he was eventually called Jim the Wonder Dog
yes,
because Jim could apparently read minds. Jim could apparently read. Yeah, Van Arsdale would give him commands like, "Here's the hotel." People would gather there. Like on the weekends, play cards. Socialize, drink coffee, whatever. And he'd say, "Jim, go find the guy from Kansas City," and he would go find the man from Kansas City. Jim, go find a girl with a red dress, and he'd go find a girl with a red dress. Matter of fact, I interviewed a woman who was in her 90s a number of years ago, who was about 10 years old when Jim was still alive. And her family had come from Arrow Rock, Missouri to Marshall, Missouri, uh, and they were at the Rough Hotel, and Jim and Sam said, Jim, go find the girl with the red dress. And there were like 4 or 5 little girls, all in red dresses, standing in a circle, and Jim ran up to them and then turned around and looked at Sam like, okay, they're got all
Yeah.
got red dresses. What do you want? And he goes, the polka dot one. So he picked the girl with the polka dot dress. And this 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 woman, when I interviewed her, she had the dress. She still had it, which was cool. But
Yeah.
Jim was able to predict the winners of presidential elections. People would come to Van Arsdale and say, "What's our wife's pregnant? What's the sex of the baby going to be?" And Jim would predict the sex correct every time. People tested Jim by saying, "Okay, writing down a license plate number. Go find the car in the parking lot with this license plate number," and he'd do it. They would write instructions for Jim in German, Swedish, Spanish, shorthand, and he would be able to follow the commands in all those different languages. Van Arsdale took Jim to the University of Missouri so they could, run some tests on him, and what all they came up with is his uh, cranial capacity was bigger than most English Llewellyn setters, but other than that, he was just a dog. The coolest part of this story had to do with Sam Van Arsdale because Hollywood came knocking. And there, because I imagine a director is like, if I have a dog who can read the script,
Oh yeah.
yeah, this is going to be great. He wouldn't sell his dog for any amount of money. He
Awesome.
just wanted to have a hunting dog. That's all he wanted. So much respect to him. When
Absolutely.
Jim died, they wanted the town wanted to bury him in the cemetery in town, but the people did. But there was a law that said you couldn't bury an animal in a human cemetery, so they buried Jim just outside the cemetery. And then the funny thing is, later the cemetery expanded, and Jim's now in the
And now
cemetery.
he's in it.
Yeah. And the last time I went to Marshall, I went to Jim's grave, and people put coins on it. I'm not sure why people put coins on graves, but Jim's getting the royal treatment.
That's awesome. That is amazing. It just
Yeah,
blows your
that's a
mind.
great story.
Oh yeah,
Love
there's no way you can replicate that either. I mean that's just
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
Lost
mean,
my words
there was so many witnesses, so many people saw what he did, and he was just a special dog or the luckiest creature on the face of the planet.
Right. Yeah, such an amazing story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ah. Well, people can find your new book, Chasing North American Monsters, on llewellynpress.com and Amazon. And you wanna pimp your product out there?
Right. Yeah. No, it's this is the second book in the Chasing Monsters series. My first one was Chasing American Monsters, which covered the United States, all 50 states, and Chasing North American Monsters is I didn't do any repetition for the United States. I found new monsters for us, but I cover everything from the Arctic Circle all the way down to Panama, and there are a lot of fun, crazy, creepy critters out there. Um, Chasing the world's monsters. I'm going farther next year. But anyway, check all these out. They're a lot of fun, and I've written them. They're a lot of short stories, but I'm trying to cover as many monsters as I can.
I really enjoy Chasing American Monsters, and I really enjoy this book, and I recommend it. Check it out, y'all. Thanks again for coming on the show, man, and keeping it rolling this Halloween.
Hey, dude, anytime you want me on, just let me know. I love being on.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Strange things are afoot in the Sullivan County Courthouse. It sits atop a hill in the center of town, looming over Milan, Missouri. Within the walls of this stately building, restless spirits prowl. Doors are often heard opening and closing, as well as footsteps on the creaking hardwood floors. The cameras often detect motion in empty rooms. There's a being on the landing whose face can be seen poking around corners, staring at people. A man in period clothes was seen walking down the steps in the basement before simply vanishing. There are stories of an inmate who burned to death in a cell, Some say he is still serving time in the old jail. Then there is the basement. A pervasive feeling of malevolence can often be experienced by those unfortunate enough to have reason to go down there. A man's head was seen lurking over the shoulder of a young woman on her smoke break, seeking refuge from the cold in the boiler room, and there was no doubt that this man harbored bad intentions. The legend is that, while they are renovating the basement years ago, the remains of Native Americans were unearthed, and people claim they measured 7 feet in length. If the reports are to be believed, and the sources are indeed credible, then something or things haunt the Sullivan County Courthouse. Brilliant listeners shared this next tale with me, a tale of phantom cats. He said that his mom used to work at a nursing home in Princeton, Missouri, and she had one resident that every night begged her to remove these cats from her room, cats only the resident could see. The resident was convinced that if these cats were left overnight, these phantom cats would kill her. Well, his mom humored her every night. She made a big show of removing these invisible cats every night. And one night, his mom was off, and the nurse that night failed to remove these phantom felines from her room, and the next morning the resident was found deceased. Did the phantom cats get her? Were these cats merely products of her imagination, or were they perhaps unseen malevolent entities? Was it her belief in these cats, her conviction that they were real, that led to her passing? Or was it something else entirely?
It's it's interesting. I'm of course, interested in history of all kinds, and I've done over the years a lot of theater work, and I was at the Landers down on Walnut Street, and we just finished a show, and I was on the stage crew. I wasn't in the show, and so I was taking the ghost light out to put it on the stage, and the lights were still on in the house, and I just happened to glance up into the theater and up into the balcony, and up on the second balcony there was somebody, it looked like, leaning against the wall. Because the second balcony was stripped bare. There's no seats up there. They don't use it anymore, except for technical stuff. We have lights and things up there. And there was just a person leaning against the wall. And you know how you kind of see something and it doesn't react at first, and you glance back? I glanced back and there was nobody there.
Oh, wow.
And there was a stabbing up there back years ago, in that second balcony, and other people have seen somebody up there in that balcony leaning against the wall. The same view of them that I saw.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I think also interesting, there's a lot of cases of haunted theaters that seem to be one of the more more haunted.
I wonder if it's because of there's so much drama and so much emotion generated in the building, or if people are just looking for ghosts. I mean, there's supposedly the Landers has 3 or 4 different ghosts that have been seen there. The one I saw up in the balcony. There's another one down in the basement. There was a man killed there. There was a fire in the theater in 1919, and he was overcome by smoke and died there in the theater. And then there's another one that apparently up on the 3rd floor where the offices are and the apartment, somebody could be heard running up and down the hall. So there's several different stories there in the Landers, and then there's 2 or 3 in the Gilloys, and there's a couple in the Fox. All of the old theaters that have been there for 100 years or better have at least 2 or 3 ghost stories in each one of them.
Yeah, it's like you said. I guess it would be because of the emotion that's portrayed on the stage and all the drama that goes into it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just bored, so a better place to hang out than the theater.
That's it.
Well, Hey, thank you so much for your story and for your time, sir.
You
Really
bet.
appreciate it.
You bet. Glad to do it. You have a good day.
This is John Sellars, Director Emeritus of the History Museum on the Square in Springfield, Missouri. You heard him mention setting up the ghost light. A ghost light is an electric light, and it's left illuminated on the stage of a theater whenever the theater's empty, and it would otherwise be completely dark. Typically, it consists of an exposed incandescent light bulb or a CFL lamp or LED lamp, and it's mounted in a wire cage on a portable light stand and usually placed near center stage. The practical use of the ghost light is for safety. It enables a person to navigate the theater, to find lighting control consoles and such like that, to avoid accidents like falling in the orchestra pit or stepping on and tripping over set pieces. It's like I said, it's there when it's empty and it'd be otherwise completely dark, so they leave the ghost light on. So that's the ghost light that he was talking about. I now present to you Cemetery Gargoyle. This next tale is of a bizarre creature, and it was shared with me by a brilliant listener. One night when she was a teenager, she and 3 of her friends were traveling the back roads, going around 35 miles an hour on gravel, as teenagers are wont to do, when they saw a bizarre bipedal creature running beside them, keeping up with them as they tore down the gravel road. It seemed to disappear and to reappear at intervals beside them, and as they raced past Brackett Cemetery, the thing took to the air, flying in circles over the cemetery with wings that she described as being bat-like. She said it was red in color, and the last glimpse they had as they tore ass out of there, it was flying in circles immediately over the cemetery. And upon arriving at their friend's house, they told the story to her dad, who didn't seem very surprised and simply gave him the advice of, well, you ought to take a different way back. She has never saw this creature or heard of anyone else seeing it since. This thing kind of gives off Mothman vibes, right? But it sounds like the reports that many people have been sending in have been talking about of seeing gargoyles, or what people call gargoyles, over the years. This certainly sounds like it could be that. Author of many books on film and Western history, including Cowboys and Saurian series, he has written for True West, the Tombstone Epitaph, and is the past president of the board of directors for the Historical Society of Southwest New Mexico. And you've seen him open his mail shirtless on the internet. Mr. LeMay, welcome back to Brilliant.
Hey, Alan. Well, I didn't know you saw that too. Wow, that really got around.
It's viral, man.
Shameful. You have to do what you have to get, attention for your books.
I was thinking about trying the same thing, but I don't think it'd have quite the same effect, So I got you on my Halloween special here to talk about something I was unaware of as a Missourian, and that's Jesse James had his own ghost, his own Phantom Rider.
Yeah, just so people aren't confused. Yeah, it's not that Jesse James is the ghost. It's that Jesse James would see this ghost sporadically, and supposedly he took it as a bad omen when he would see the ghost, so he'd know to be extra careful and stuff like that.
And we'll get into that in a second, because I question that a little bit. But Now we got this because in the articles printed on it, Frank was telling the story to his cellmate. Is that correct? And then we get the story from the cellmate.
Yeah, so it's like a second or third hand type story. Yeah, when Frank James was jailed in 1882, he goes after Jesse was already dead. His witness, Frank just shared the cell with Frank, and Frank told him the story about the Phantom Rider. Yeah, so Frank told the story in 1882, but it didn't get published until 6 years later in newspapers in 1888. That's so I mean, the pedigree is great. It's not like it came direct from Jesse James.
Right. And a lot of time there in between the secondhand story. It gets a little bit problematic, and then the articles, they have not many, but there are some conflicting things between them. But The main story, as I understand, is what they're riding down the trail, and then this rider on a white horse stops them in the trail, and then Jesse turns white as a ghost, takes a shot at him, and then the rider points at him and rides away, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool that story took place like specifically at a crossroads.
Yes, and yeah, and they go on and they say they took it as a harbinger and this and that, but it doesn't really say that they seen this rider and then took the other way and avoided an ambush or
Exactly. Yeah.
there's like no follow up. It's just then they went on their way.
Yeah. And
And
same thing, they kept saying like he saw the ghost right before he died, but they didn't get specific. That's all they said.
which you think if you would have seen the Phantom Rider right before he died, maybe he wouldn't took off his guns and turned his back and hung a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, they talk about it like, oh, he's warned him from problems all his life, and he's seen it, and he know that there's trouble ahead or whatever. So why the hell would you take a shot at somebody like that?
Yeah.
I think you would be more welcoming to having this warning.
Yeah, the more I research these old newspaper stories, unfortunately, the more I think a lot of them are just made up. I used to really believe a lot of them, but now, after going through so many of them, I think half of them are just reporters making stuff up.
Yellow journalism on a slow news day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I had never even heard of it, and this is Jesse James country, and then I was like, man, my ignorance. I kind of mentioned to other people, oh, the ghost of haunted Jesse James. We're like, what? Like, oh, it's not just me. It's pretty obscure then.
Yeah. I don't recall where I found this either. I perused newspaper.com a lot with different search words, and I don't remember if this is one that I found on my own or somebody else published it on a website or a book somewhere, and that's what drew my attention to it. But yeah, I agree. It's not something that's promoted a lot.
Yeah, like I said, it was the first I'd heard of it, and it wasn't just this one incident. The articles implied that it had followed him all his life and that he knew about it. It makes you wonder if, in fact, it happened, if it would
Yeah.
be maybe somebody that he murdered earlier in life that comes back because he's never too pleased to see it. It didn't seem like.
Yeah, and I have a shorter version of the article. There's a real long one, and then there's a short one. Would you like me to read the shorter one?
Absolutely.
All right, so this one was published in the Butler Weekly Times on August 29th, 1888, entitled Jesse James and the Phantom Horseman. The story of the Phantom Horseman was always firmly believed by the companions of Frank and Jesse James. Frank was always the least superstitious of the men who rode with the celebrated raiders. Jesse, however, had a strong vein of superstition in his composition and firmly believed that the Phantom Horseman was his own peculiar banshee. He frequently asserted that the appearance of the apparition was intended as a warning or foreboded evil. The first time Frank James saw the apparition was one night when he, Jesse, and several other members of the outlawed Night Riders were riding. As they emerged from the heavy shadows of the trees, where the two roads met, they came upon an open space where the moon shone brightly on the converging crossroads. There, distinctly outlined in the bright moonlight, sat a man on a coal black horse. So this article will stop for a second. Typically, he rides a white horse. This article changed it to a black horse. I thought the white horse was cooler because that's more unusual.
Yeah.
But okay, back to the article. So there sat a man on a coal black horse. The moon shone brightly on the polished trappings of the steed. Horse and rider remained motionless as if silently challenging the right of the party to the way. Jesse drew his revolver to fire, but was stopped by the exclamation of one of the party, who exclaimed, "My God, it is a ghost." The figure remained motionless and seemed to gradually fade away before their eyes as Jesse turned his horse and took the other road. "I've seen him before," said Jesse, but refused to offer any further explanation. It is said that several other members of the so-called James Gang have seen the Phantom, among them Bill Ryan and Dick Little, and can vouch for the authenticity of this account. The Phantom was generally alluded to as Jesse's ghost and is said to have appeared to him shortly before his death. Jesse seemed to recognize the Phantom as the ghost of someone he had known in life, but was strangely silent on the question and never vouched any explanation as to who it was. So in this rendition, it does say that he changed his path upon seeing the ghost. So I guess
Okay.
that one did make a difference. But you're right. The first article, the longer one, it's a white horse, and they don't really allude to him, changing his course because of it.
Right, which makes it, I mean, I don't know, not a harbinger at all, just a
Yeah,
ghost. And
yeah,
when they asked Frank, like, you think it was just a person that Jesse shot at? And he said he seldom misses under 10 yards, but
yeah. Yeah,
could
and
have
then in
been,
one
I
of
guess.
the other stories, they said when Jesse was by himself, the rider rode up behind him and jumped off his horse and like jumped behind him.
Yeah, I believe that was his son that was telling, or the
Oh,
article credited that to his son. Yeah. Yeah, the ghost jumped on his horse and he tried to shoot behind him and they ran for half a mile and then the ghost left. So I'm not sure why, but yeah, it's a really hard legend or ghost story to get a good handle on. There's more questions at the end of the day than answers, but
yeah,
I just
yeah. I
like
say
that.
I say if a reporter made that up, I don't think they did a good job because it just doesn't have a clearly defined middle, beginning, and end, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, the narrative is off. So yeah, if you're making it up, you would link it back to, you would tie it together. It would have, like you said, it would
Yeah,
have a middle, beginning, and end, which almost gives me more credibility. But
I think that way too. Yeah, the more basic the sighting is, sometimes that boosts its credibility. I agree.
yeah, like I said, it's been a hard one to wrap my mind around. I revisited it, of course, before the interview. And I'm like, yeah, no, I still not, not entirely sure what it would mean or why it was there, but yeah. And
So that's the only reason I included it in this particular collection was it involved Jesse James. I mean, by itself, it's really not an interesting story, but because it's Jesse James that saw it, therefore it's cool.
yeah, absolutely, and perfect for my Missouri special here.
Yeah.
And if you guys are looking for it at home, Cowboys and Monsters by John
Yeah, thank
LeMay.
you.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
buy the sucker. It's there you go. A little better shot of it there. It is fantastic. Although I will say, this story is not real indicative of what you're going to find in the book. This is more of the flesh and blood variety monsters and not
yeah.
just ghost stories. This was kind of the exception. But again, when you're a historical legend, a legendary outlaw, you get some exceptions made for you.
Yeah, I wish somebody, I mean, I'm not going to do it, but like the History Press, they like local authors to write books from their region. And I did one called Tall Tales and Half Truths of Billy the Kid. So I wish somebody in Missouri would do Tall Tales and Half Truths of Jesse James and include stuff like this story. And one of the books behind me, I don't remember which one, I might have been Trigonometry or something like that. There's a chapter called The Curse of Jesse James that was kind of supernatural and interesting. Kind of already forgotten the details of it, other than like I dog-eared the page just so I can go back to it one
Right.
day.
And of course, like Jesse's boyhood home that's supposedly haunted by Frank, and then the
Yeah,
house Jesse was killed in. They say it's haunted, but nothing really to say that it's Jesse. You can more find
yeah.
him in the hotels, I think, if he's out there or whatever. But yep, like I said, again, Cowboys and Monsters, get it. It's good. You'll love it. You deserve to treat yourself on this Halloween. And
Oh, thank
I've had him on for Cowboys and Monsters and Cowboys and Zombies, but he also does. I was talking to you and like you're not there. but, but you do just regular historical books as well, which are excellent. And I think you got something coming out in January. Am I wrong?
I do. The most recent that one's not really.
More
I
of a
don't think that one would interest listeners to this podcast, but I just had one come out this summer called Haunted Lincoln County, or like Lincoln County, New Mexico. So it's Billy the Kid ghost stuff. And that's with the History Press. They do a bunch of these haunted America books with a famous landmark with a big moon behind it. So I did the Lincoln County version of that.
excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us this bizarre tale, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, you too, Alan. Thank you.
Many thanks to John LeMay for being part of our Halloween celebration. Now I'm going to tell you about the White Lady of the Pipeline. Where the old pipeline once carved its way through the countryside, the old-timers still talk about, reluctantly at most times, but they will tell you about the woman in white they say still walked the pipeline. Her husband had worked on the crew who put the pipeline in and died in an accident, and now she roams the route, still searching for him. And she has been seen by many a person in those woods. The next, again, told to me by a listener, is about a ghost train, and I love me some ghost trains. A deer hunter told me about an eerie experience he had on a long since abandoned railway just outside of Galt, Missouri. The tracks had long since been removed, and as he stood in his tree stand just between daylight and dark, he heard a great cacophonous sound, the unmistakable noise of a train coming. He saw the light coming, and then he saw a ghostly image, a translucent image of a train passing by. He has yet to go back and hunt that land again. And other hunters have also claimed to have seen the same thing. Could this have been a time slip? Here's a little bit about a local cemetery. Locals say you don't go to Thomas Union Cemetery after dark. There, in the center of the cemetery, is a flag that doesn't blow in the wind. There is a different atmosphere inside the fence, and legend says that it's either in the 1800s or the early 1900s, a young girl had died, and a couple of weeks later, the family was moving, some say up around the Kansas City area, so they exhumed the body to bring with them and to bury at their new home. And the mother wanted to see her daughter just one last time. And when they pried open the casket lid, there were scratch marks on the inside of the lid. The young girl had been buried alive. Well, since then, the body was removed, and since there was no body there, they removed her tombstone, and they would lean it up against the fence, and the next morning, it'd always be back in its original location, until finally, they had the tombstone destroyed. Next, I have a personal account. This actually happened to me and my wife. We went to Maple Grove Cemetery one afternoon to take pictures of symbols on headstones for a series of shorts I was adding to my channel on YouTube. It was broad daylight, and I certainly wasn't expecting any type of supernatural encounter, just a regular afternoon. Now, the first odd thing, although we didn't think of it until much after the fact, was that the alarm in the truck kept dinging even after the keys were removed, and we fiddled with it and got it to stop, and we just kind of looked at each other, said that was weird, and shrugged it off. And as my wife and I were in different areas taking pictures, respectively, I heard her say, "Hey baby, look at this." Well, I was framing up my shot, so I took the picture and walked over to her, and she asked what I wanted her to see. I said, "No, you said, 'Hey baby, look at this.'" And she said, "No, I distinctly heard you say it." We each heard the same thing in the other's voice, and so I turned the recorder on my phone, and something abnormal and not immediately explainable came through. I couldn't make out words or intent or anything like that, and so I just spoke out loud. I felt kind of silly, but I spoke out loud that I said, "Hey, they say that you guys are supposed to have cold spots when a living person comes near them, so just stand where you want me to look, and I'll go walk a grid until I feel a cold spot. Honestly, I really wasn't expecting anything to happen, so I was kind of half-assing it, just going through the motions. And then I felt a cold spot, and it's undefinable feeling of something near me. And immediately I was just drawn to a headstone laying on the ground, tipped over, forgotten, and the name on it was Willie Brooks. Did I encounter the ghost of Willie? Was it something that wanted me to think it was a child ghost? I mean, it didn't feel malevolent, but really, you never know what you may be contacting.
So, what do you want me to look at? I'll give you a few seconds to answer. Okay, anything else you want me to know? Not no disrespect, we're just here educating ourselves. You guys haven't been forgotten.
Something watches from the third-floor windows of the Elms Hotel. Housekeeping staff know it's there. They feel eyes following them through the limestone corridors, even when the floor appears empty. Night shift workers hear footsteps in vacant rooms. Security cameras capture movement in hallways that should be still. At 401 Regent Street in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, the living share their space with those who refuse to leave. The horror began with hope. In 1880, Travis Million's daughter lay dying from tuberculosis, her lungs slowly drowning in their own fluid. Native Americans and local hunters whispered about springs near the fishing river, rust-colored water bubbling up from underground that supposedly held healing powers. Million, desperate and out of options, brought his daughter to drink and bathe in the mineral waters. Within weeks, she recovered completely. Word of the miraculous cure spread like disease itself. Frederick Heigler arrived with a festering leg wound from the Civil War that wouldn't heal after years of treatment. The springs cured him within a month. By 1881, over 1,000 people were arriving daily at what would become Excelsior Springs. They pitched tents along the riverbank, lived out of covered wagons, built makeshift shelters, anything to stay close to the waters they believed would save them. Unfortunately, many of those who came here looking for miracles were never healed, and hundreds of deaths were reported over the years. They arrived on stretchers, carried by relatives, some already in final stages of tuberculosis, cancer, and other terminal illnesses. Some of them were on their deathbeds looking for a miracle cure. The Excelsior Springs Company recognized opportunity in this parade of the desperate. In 1888, they opened the Elms Hotel on 50 acres, a massive wooden structure with wraparound verandas where the wealthy dying could expire in luxury. The hotel featured mineral water baths, elegant ballrooms, and orchestras that played while tuberculosis patients coughed blood into silk handkerchiefs. The first sign of the curse came on May 9, 1898. During an elaborate party in the ballroom, a candle overturned. A wooden structure, dried brittle by Missouri summers, erupted in flames. Guests fled in terror as fire consumed the building in hours. Though official records state no one died, the speed of the destruction and the number of invalids present make this claim suspect. The town rebuilt immediately, opening a grander 300-room hotel on July 31, 1909. But on Halloween Eve, 1910, barely a year later, fire struck again following another ballroom party. The entire structure burned to the ground in the night. Again, authorities claimed no fatalities, though rumors have persisted that one of the spirits was involved in one of the fires. The third construction used Missouri limestone, steel frames, and reinforced concrete, materials that couldn't burn. When it opened on September 19, 1912, over 3,000 guests arrived, many still seeking cures that would never come. The hotel that couldn't be destroyed by fire would instead become a tomb for those fire couldn't kill. She appeared on the third floor wearing a 1920s-style uniform. Black dress, white apron, her hair pinned in the fashion of the era. The hotel staff and guests alike have often seen a maid wearing a 1920s-style uniform on the third floor. She's extremely benevolent and only there to watch today's housekeeping staff to ensure they do their work correctly. Current housekeeping staff report feeling her presence most strongly when they cut corners or rush through rooms. Objects move when they're not looking. Freshly made beds show indentations as if someone sat down to inspect the work. She never speaks, but her disapproval fills the air like cold water. One housekeeper who requested anonymity described encountering the maid in 2019. She was cleaning room 320 when she felt someone standing directly behind her. The sensation was so strong she apologized for being in the way, before turning to find the room empty. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees. She now announces herself when entering any third-floor room, for both the living and the dead. A more disturbing presence roams the hotel's corridors without pattern or purpose. Another spirit is said to be a distressed woman who walks through the hotel looking for her child. She's been known to pull people's hair or throw things across the room. Unlike the helpful maid, this entity radiates anguish and confusion. Guests report waking to the sensation of someone tugging their hair, gentle at first, then increasingly insistent. Objects fly across rooms, lamps knocked from tables, pictures torn from walls. The violence escalates when children are present, as if their presence triggers something desperate in whatever remains of this woman. Staff believe she may have been one of the many mothers who brought dying children to the Springs only to lose them in the hotel. The historical record shows dozens of children died here, their parents' grief soaking into the limestone walls like blood into fabric. The most unnerving encounters happen in room 425. Guests sleeping there report feeling someone crawl into bed with them, something the size of a child. The presence doesn't feel threatening, just wrong. The weight of a small body that shouldn't exist pressing against the mattress. Cold spots spreading across the sheets where something unseen has curled up beside the living. Multiple guests have checked out in the middle of the night after experiencing this phenomenon. One couple from Kansas City reported to the front desk in 2018 that they both felt a child climb between them around 3 a.m. When they turned on the lights, the depression in the mattress remained visible for several seconds before slowly rising back to normal. The most aggressive haunting centers on the basement lap pool. During Prohibition, this area served a darker purpose. Al Capone made the Elms his regular hideout, occupying room 214 where he could watch anyone approaching the hotel. In the basement where the European lap pool was situated, according to Jay Fanning, ghost tour guide and unofficial Elms Hotel historian, Capone's lackeys would fill empty water bottles labeled Excelsior Springs with the handcrafted brew and ship them out. Behind false walls, the hotel stored illegal liquor. These hidden rooms hosted all-night gambling parties where fortunes changed hands and violence erupted. The lap pool in the basement is said to be haunted by a man traced back to the hotel's speakeasy days. During Prohibition, the gangsters stored their liquor and held their all-night gambling parties in these blocked-off rooms. The spirit is said to be that of a man killed by the mob during one of these illegal drinking events. Staff cleaning the pool area report hearing splashing when the pool sits empty. Waves appear in still water. Security footage captures ripples moving across the surface at 3 a.m. when the area is locked and vacant. The activity intensifies near the corner where one of the original springs still bubbles, brown, iron-rich water seeping up like old blood. Maintenance workers refuse to work alone in the basement at night. In 2017, a night janitor quit after claiming something grabbed his ankle while he mopped near the pool. He described feeling cold, wet fingers wrap around his leg, though the floor was dry and he was alone. The handprint-shaped bruises on his ankle were documented in his workers' compensation claim. By February 2013, the paranormal activity had escalated to the point where both staff and guests were terrified. Keith Winge, the hotel's special projects manager, made the decision to contact the Atlantic Paranormal Society, TAPS, the investigators featured on Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters television series. The investigation revealed disturbing evidence. When Jason Hawes and Steve Gonsalves investigated near the spa, they captured what they described as a long, howling scream, a sound so clear that even the camera operator heard it. The sound lasted several seconds, rising and falling like someone in agony. Near the guest rooms, investigators Amy Bruni and Adam Berry encountered something that actively mimicked their equipment. Their shadow detector kept going off when there was no one around. Then they heard noises that sounded like the shadow detector, but the beeps were coming from far away. When they called in senior investigators, Hawes suggested this intelligent mimicry indicated poltergeist activity, an entity aware enough to mock the living. The most compelling evidence came from the pool area. Investigator Britt Griffith entered the water with EMF equipment while his partner Michelle Tate monitored from poolside. Her shadow detector began registering movement that corresponded exactly with ripples appearing on the water's surface, matching the claims of guests who reported seeing the empty pool disturbed by invisible swimmers. Each investigator spent a night alone in the reportedly haunted rooms. Michelle's overnight camera caught a strange noise and was trying to refocus its lens on something invisible to human eyes. The camera's autofocus repeatedly adjusted, hunting for something that wasn't there or wasn't visible. During a violent thunderstorm that moved through during the investigation, the activity peaked. The energy levels were peaking near the guest rooms. Britt and Michelle set the geophone up and it was dancing. The REM pod, the shadow detector, all the equipment was beeping and buzzing. The team's conclusion? The Elms showed genuine paranormal activity from multiple entities. While they found the spirits non-hostile, they couldn't explain the intelligent responses, physical manipulations, and recorded phenomena. The hotel maintains unofficial logs of paranormal encounters, creating a disturbing pattern of experiences. Room 347. Guests wake with scratches on their backs, 3 parallel lines that weren't there when they went to sleep. The marks appear most frequently on men sleeping alone. Room 438. Women report feeling their feet tickled in the middle of the night. The sensation starts playfully but becomes aggressive if ignored. The 5th floor. Doors slam shut with enough force to shake the walls. 2 separate investigation teams recorded the same pattern, doors closing in sequence down the hallway as if something was checking each room. The ballroom. Chandeliers swing without air currents. Though investigators discovered air conditioning vents could cause some movement, staff report seeing them move in still air, sometimes in opposite directions simultaneously. The Truman Suite. Named for President Harry Truman, who stayed here in 1948, guests report hearing construction noises at night, hammering, sawing, drilling, though no work is being performed. The most disturbing aspect of the Elms isn't what's visible, but what's hidden. It was even rumored that the racketeer had escape tunnels behind the Truman boardroom, which emptied out behind the police station in case of a constabulary raid. These tunnels, if they exist, have never been fully explored or mapped. Staff members whisper about sections of the basement that have been walled off. During the 2011 renovation, workers reported hearing voices behind newly installed walls, conversations in languages they couldn't identify, sometimes laughter, sometimes screaming. The construction company refused to comment on why certain areas were sealed rather than renovated. Jay Fanning, who leads the nightly ghost tours, hints at spaces guests aren't shown. "There are parts of this hotel that haven't been opened since Prohibition," he admits. "Some doors are locked for a reason." The Elms has adapted to its haunted reputation with disturbing pragmatism. Every night at 9 p.m., tours gather in the lobby for the paranormal experience. Guides equipped with headset speakers lead groups through all floors, sharing stories of specific rooms where things have happened. The tours book up quickly. especially around Halloween when some guests specifically request the most haunted rooms. In room number 425, where shadows linger, alarm clocks won't shut off, and the door handle jiggles from the inside. The ghost was trying to get out, not in, he confides. In room 438, women get their feet tickled, and in 347, people sleeping here have reported scratches on their back from an invisible host. Staff have developed their own protocols. Housekeeping always announces themselves when entering third-floor rooms. The pool is never cleaned by a single person after dark. Night desk clerks keep detailed logs of unusual occurrences, not for management, but for each other, a warning system about which areas to avoid on specific nights. The hotel spa still offers treatments using the mineral waters that drew so many desperate souls over a century ago. In the corner of the basement pool area, one of the original springs continues to bubble, its brown, magnesium-rich waters bubbling up in the corner of the most gorgeous lap pool room you have ever seen. Staff joke darkly that the water's brown color comes from all the blood that's soaked into the ground over the years. Modern guests come for various reasons. Some seek the luxury spa treatments, soaking in the same waters that failed to save so many. Others come hoping to encounter something otherworldly. Wedding parties book the ballroom where candles once brought destruction. Corporate groups hold meetings in the rooms where tuberculosis patients once expired. The limestone walls hold their secrets close. Every creaking floorboard might be footsteps. Every shadow could be something watching. Every cold spot might be where someone died, still trying to find their way out. We don't really promote that aspect of the hotel, but it's an undeniable fact that we have spirits, and they come in all shapes, sizes, etc., according to hotel staff. The overnight cleaner sees the most supernatural activity. During thunderstorms, the activity intensifies, as if the electrical energy in the air gives the dead more power to manifest. Doors slam harder. Shadows move faster. The child in room 425 becomes more insistent, pressing closer to the warm bodies of the living. The Elms Hotel continues to operate as a successful resort, its paranormal reputation becoming part of its appeal rather than a liability. But beneath the luxury spa treatments and fine dining, something else operates too. In the basement where bootleggers once hid their illegal liquor and someone died violently, in the third-floor hallways where a maid from the 1920s still makes her rounds, in the rooms where desperate mothers lost their children to disease, the dead continue their routines, unaware or uncaring that their time has passed. Whether drawn by the mineral waters, trapped by sudden death, or simply unwilling to leave, they remain. Every night at the Elms Hotel, the living and dead share the same space, separated only by the thin veil that sometimes, in certain rooms, at certain hours, tears just enough to let something through. The hotel stands at 401 Regent Street in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, 30 minutes north of North Kansas City. Paranormal tours run nightly at 9 p.m. Room 425 remains available for booking, though the front desk staff will pause before confirming your reservation, the silent question in their eyes as if to say, "Are you sure? We have this ghost of a kid that might make you change your mind."
Many, many thanks to Darren Marlor, host of Weird Darkness, which is just an amazing podcast, for sending in that segment. I have a special treat to make your blood run cold this Halloween with investigator and founder of Beyond Life Paranormal Missouri. I have Russ Reynolds on with us. Russ, how are you doing this Halloween?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Normally when I find out somebody's gone to paranormal investigations, I think, well, what made you get into that? In your case, it's in the blood.
Yeah, it's definitely in the blood with my relation to the Warrens and John Zaffis and Keith and Carl Johnson.
Yeah, it's a lineage like that. You really had no choice.
Right. And I didn't know till a few years ago that I was related to the Warrens and all them.
Right.
So it's not I knew my whole life, but I started investigating at the age of 13.
Wow, right. So yeah, it was just even before you had that knowledge then.
Yep. But I've
Eh,
been friends with Lorraine Warren on Facebook since 2006 when Ed passed away. So
Right.
Lorraine knew there was a connection there.
Okay. And right now you're headquartered in Breckinridge, Missouri, right?
Yep.
So do you have some stories for us this Halloween to get us all in the right mood?
I can tell you about Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Yes, please.
We got invited there by another team, and they were doing 2 nights there, and we could only go the second night because we all had to work. We go out there. We got let in about 7:30. Our tour guide let us in, so we took the tour. The other team, they were wandering around Waverly Hills, so we took the tour, and on tour, activity started in broad daylight. We go outside, start walking the outside of the building. We stop, look up in the upper window, and we see a nurse standing up in the window looking out at us. And our tour guide didn't see it, but I had also have abilities as well, and I could see her standing up there. Another one of my team members saw her standing up there, and so we progressed on, got to the back of the building. Our tour guide sees somebody looking out the exit door window on the outside, and he couldn't be sure if it was that other team that we were with. So I went up there and I checked, and there was nobody on that stairwell. Nobody went up it. Nobody came down it. Look up, and the other team's up on the roof taking pictures.
Yeah, it couldn't possibly have been there then.
So that was kind of the start. And then once we got inside, we were walking the fourth floor with him, and he was explaining some stuff. And we got walking, and he says, "Hold up for a second." Him and I both seen a shadow figure peek out around one of the door frames at us, yell down there, "Hello," trying to debunk it. No answer. The other team come in from the catwalks on the same floor, and we asked them, "Were you just down that hallway?" They said, "No, it wasn't us. We just got out here on these catwalks out here." And so Mel meter started going crazy. REM pod went off.
Nah,
So that was our highlight of the start of the night. Well,
that's just the start.
yep, that was just the start. We got done. It got dark. Started grabbing equipment. Headed up to the fourth floor. And no, I take that back. Second floor. And one of my members smoked. So they wanted to smoke a cigarette before they got started. So I milled around the atrium, and that overlooks the outer catwalks where they used to put the tuberculosis patients outside for air, and their rooms all bordered that. Well, got looking, and I see this black figure just creeping across the floor. It was crawling. And I called my one member over, and I was like, "You see that?" They saw it. I was like, "Keep watching it, and I'm going to head towards it." So I started walking towards it, and as fast as I got to it, it went up over the side of the wall down to the other floor below. And
Yeah,
that figure is known as the for Waverly Hills.
yeah, he's
So
one of the scarier entities I've heard about. Yeah, the crawler. Yeah.
yeah, the theory with him, there was a man that was housed in there for tuberculosis that was paralyzed. He was in a wheelchair. He would go down to maintenance every week to get his wheelchair oiled. Well, one day he went down there and he was yelling for people. Nobody was down there. Well, somehow he mysteriously wound up on the loading dock and ended up face planting off the loading dock onto the pavement below, killing him.
Mm.
So they think he's possibly the creeper spirit that crawls around because he was paralyzed.
Yeah, didn't regain the use of his legs after life either, just as he
Yep.
was in life.
Yep. So we ended up getting a thunderstorm coming through. And we started off in the two sisters' room. The one sister, She was cured of tuberculosis, but the other sister had died there. And they were both housed in the same room when they were both there together. And so a thunderstorm comes in. We hear this loud metallic bang that rattled the whole building, sound like a metal door had slammed shut. Could never find where the sound came from, couldn't recreate it. So we moved on. We ended up going to the body chute, went all the way to the bottom. Standing down there at the bottom, we started taking still photos. In each photo, this black mass would fill the whole body chute up and just kept getting closer and closer to us.
Oh,
Each picture we took. And we heard the metal gate up top that has not moved for years because it's rusted open. We heard it shut. Yell up there, hello. Nobody answers us. So we start heading back up. I grab a ball and I throw it down there to the bottom. The ball stops halfway down. You don't even hear it hit the door down there.
oh my
And
gosh.
so we regrouped, went with the other team, and we went down to the first floor, sat at the round table doing a spirit box session. We had the equipment laid out on the table. We had a K2 meter, my Mel meter with REM pod, and another K2 meter. And we had a guy that was skeptic. We were letting him ask questions. Well, the entity that was down there was not very friendly. He likes to cuss a lot. And he called the guy a little bitch, told him to shut up, all kinds of stuff. And then the one girl asked him a question. He called her a dumb bitch. Then they asked, "Do you like Russell?" No, he's an asshole. And about that time, all the meters were going in sync with each other all the way around the table. And then we had something get thrown, like a rock or something.
Good
And
grief. That is just terrifying.
so after that, we went on our way again, and we ended up talking to the tour guide and invited him to come along with us. And he's like, "I want you to do the Waverly Hills Challenge." He says, "You and your team go to the morgue. One of you slide in the refrigerator part and stay in there for about 15 minutes. And the rest of the team stay out in the hallway." I said, "All right, slide in there." And I said, "I'll do you one better. I'll stay in there for 2 hours." So my team stayed out in the hallway. I let them ask questions. I had my Mel meter with REM pod sitting on my chest. And then I had K2 by my head. And I slid in head first. Most of everybody that goes to Waverly Hills, they slide in feet first.
Yeah, no doubt.
I went in head first, like recreated body laying in there, and we caught an EVP out of there saying he's dead. And we had a Boo Bear sitting on one of the embalming tables, and that thing would not shut up. It just kept talking and talking and talking. K2 was going crazy above my head. So after the 2 hours, we left there and went to the surgery room on the fourth floor. Well, during the tour, our tour guide told us he got his leg lifted up on laying on that table. He was doing an Estes method for two girls that weren't experiencing anything. So I was like, we're going to try to recreate that. But I said, we're going
Just Dusty's method is where somebody's derived a site and have the noise
to, yep,
cancellation headphones hooked up to the ghost. Just for our listeners who might not be
yep, it's
tracking.
sensory deprivation. So it cuts out all your senses. So all you're hearing is the voice, spirit box coming through your ears. You're not hearing who's asking questions. But we decided we're going to do a little role play. So I was like, I'll lay on the table, wheel me under the light, play like I'm sick. Well, he started screaming for a doctor. I was acting like I was coughing. We had a motion light sitting in the doorway. Well, it kicked on. And I heard a noise, so I went to sit up and I could not move. It was like someone was just pushing me in the chest. My arms and legs were restrained. And my one member's like, "Can you move?" I was like, "No, something's holding me to this table." And then we hear two loud female screams right outside the door in the hallway. So I said to my member, text that other team, find out where they're at, because they had females with them. They were on the opposite side of the building, up on the 5th floor, out on the roof doing an Estes method. So everybody was accounted for. They were all together. And that's where they were all sitting. And one was actually in the, down from room 502 in the mental part of the sanatorium. So everybody was accounted for. And then got done there, and we were getting ready to head back because you can only investigate till 4 a.m. And so as we were walking back, we're coming down the 4th floor hallway, and this figure decides it's going to come running at us straight down the hallway. It was about 5 foot tall, blows in between both of us. You could feel the static to your arms, hair stand up, goosebumps, and a cold. And I look, and we're like, what the hell was that? Just disappeared, and the other team come in behind us, and I asked them, did you see a figure go down there? They said, no, we never
Huh.
saw it. And it was about the size of a kid, which a kid is known to, he's the one that rolls the ball in and out of the rooms in that
Right.
hallway. And that ended our night there at Waverly. And so we had some pretty good activity between avoiding the bats and everything that were flying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But another cool story is we were investigating this old hotel that dates back all the way to the 1920s. The previous hotels were all built in the 1800s, and they all three of them burnt to the ground. Fireman had lost his life there. He was battling a blaze in the 1800s, and he was up on the roof, and he got overcame with smoke. Thought he was jumping down to the next roof. Well, he ended up jumping through the skylight,
Oh no.
fell to his death, and a piece of glass come down out of the skylight, pierced right through his coat and his heart.
Oh man.
So they rebuilt the hotel. Several doctors owned it for a while, and then this guy George Opp had bought it, and he opened it up as a hotel. And he was known as a mobster from Kansas City. He had a speakeasy in the basement. He was a liquor bootlegger. Well, the owner had called us in to come and investigate. So he had long passed on, I think in like the 90s. Him and his wife both, they're buried in the cemetery overlooking the hotel. And so we come there, got the tour the first time. We're walking, going through this one hallway, and we hear the door behind us shut. And so we start the night off, start investigating. There's no electricity, no running water in this place. We were running off a generator to run the cameras. Well, Missouri, Missouri heat, we get
Yes, sir.
100-degree weather, and this was about 100-degree weather. Walk in to check on my dad because he's watching our cameras. Walk in there, we're in t-shirt. He's freezing, and you can literally see your breath coming out of your mouth
Oh
in
wow.
that room. And I asked him, I said, "You all right?" He says, "No, I'm freezing." We had to put blankets on him, a heat lamp, get him something warm to drink. That's how bad he was freezing. And I yelled at whatever it was that they didn't have permission to be near him, that they needed to get away, and then it finally backed away, and then we hear the ballroom,
Hmm.
and the piano's broken. It will not play any notes. So we finished that night up, this went back again and did another investigation there. Well, the rest of my team decided they were going to go stay at a hotel. My dad and I are like, we're going to stay here. We're not going to spend money for a hotel. We're going to stay right in this haunted location. He had a couch and a chair there in the storefront. So we got done for the night about 3 o'clock in the morning. The generator kicks off. I'm laying on the couch. And my dad says, "Hey, wake up." I'm like, "What? What's going on?" He says, "Look in the doorway." Look in the doorway, and here's a 6'5" black shadow figure staring at both of us after the generator kicked off and ran out of gas. And never did anything, just stood there staring at us. And
That's enough.
we think it's the former owner because he was 6'5", big old German guy. And we think he was just checking on us. We were his guests, so he was checking on us to make sure we're all right. He never did anything, but that next morning I woke up and it was broad daylight and I heard people talking in the lobby itself and I heard footsteps. So I went out to check it out. I was ready to bust some kids breaking in the place because the
Right,
place
yeah.
is kind of semi-abandoned and the kids like to go in there because they know the local legend. It's haunted. There was nobody. So we go back the third time, and this time it was two members, my dad and me. That was it. And it was about 9 o'clock when we got there. We're standing in the lobby talking to the owner, and the owner does not like being in there after dark. So my dad finds a bell from the old hotel, so he rings it. Well, all of a sudden, this big old white glow just goes around him. Couldn't explain it, couldn't debunk it, don't know what it was. And that was the start of our night. Then we started investigating. So I decided to take that bell and start ringing it, yelling for service.
Right.
We hear footsteps up above us, and there's a library up there. We hear footsteps coming up from the library. So we decided to go up there and check it out. And get up in the library. I start walking towards the back of the library by myself, and I hear this loud metallic bang. And I was filming at that time, and I react to it. I was like, "What the hell was that?" And you hear my one member go, "Was that you?" And I said, "No, didn't want me coming back here." So I go and recreate it, and it was a metal toolbox lid that had lifted up and slammed down,
Huh.
which takes a lot of energy for a spirit to manipulate an object like that.
Right.
And then we investigated for a little while, nothing more happened, and we decided to call it a night. We all went home. So later on, we get fast forward a couple years, we go to Missouri State Penitentiary,
Ah.
and it was the Devils on the Run tour that get haunted, and Nesper brought some of the items out from the Warrens Occult Museum. So we had the fire doll out there, the shadow doll. They had some Halloween masks that were used in demonic rituals, the demonic skull, the devil's sword. They had the Flight 401
Okay.
plane door out there. They had the movie Annabelle doll. They had the chair that Annabelle sat in when Ed and Lorraine brought her home. And the fire doll, she's creepy to me. Annabelle's not so much to me, but more the shadow doll and the fire doll. Give me
Okay.
more of the creepy feeling with them. And the fire doll, her eyes will sit there and follow you. And so we went downstairs with Nesper, Dan Rivera, which is passed on now.
Yeah, our condolences on that.
And we were doing Estes down there and picking up the items on the first floor there in cell block 4. And they were calling Dan's name. Then we were picking up cell number 20. And usually down there is you get JB's spirit, which is the firebug of Missouri.
Yeah.
He was housed in there for 18 years and went blind for arson. But so we move on that night and we go up to the women's part with Candy Slater and another group, and we're doing a burst EVP session plus necrophonic. The one lady's in the cell with necrophonic, and us are over on the other side doing.
Explain what that is for my people out there who might not know.
Necrophonic is like a spirit box app that's on. You can get it on your phone, and what it does, it runs in like reverse, and then you get clear sentences coming through it. So we were doing that, and then burst EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon, and this is a recorder that actually you press the button and it tells you when you get an EVP, and then you pop it on and it plays it. Well, both things were saying the exact same thing, and we were in separate parts from each other, and we were picking up on a woman who was having an affair with a guard. And she had gotten pregnant, and the guard says, if you expose it's my baby, a mysterious accident's going to happen to you. Because he didn't want to lose his job. Well, she ended up throwing herself over the rail to her death. And as we were walking back down to switch groups, we're standing down there, and we see this figure peek around the corner of the cell block and look at us. And we start chasing after it, get down there. It's not even there. So we go out on free roam after that, and we're in cell block 4. We went down to the dungeon right where we did the first Estes. So we decided to do our own Estes down there, but this time we used our abilities, our third eye.
Okay.
We went under the blindfold and the headphones, and we couldn't hear what anybody was asking. We would say what we were picking up psychically, and when I got under, I was picking up on JB the Firebug, cell number 20, housed here 18 years, and I did some research on cell number 20. There's a spirit of a man that was housed in that cell that died in there. He didn't like it because Nesper was using his cell as storage. So he was not happy. And we had this girl on tour. She had Pott's disease, which is a defect with your heart. And she was going in the shock because her energy was drained from the Warren's Occult Museum being there, and then all that energy in that prison.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So they thought they were going to have to call the ambulance for her. And they brought her down to the lobby, and she sat on the bench next to my dad. My dad said, leave her here with me and let me work with her. And so my dad put some holy water on his hands, and he started saying some prayers with her, and this white light went around him again, which we were able to determine it's a healing light.
Okay.
And a cleansing. And this girl snapped right out of it. He gave her his cleansing medallion, and he gave him a hug, and she was fine for the rest of the night. She lasted through the whole night.
It's wild.
But yeah, it's crazy. We did a session with the Shadow Doll in Cell House 4. We were pretty much the only ones that could do sessions with the dolls because of us being part of the Warrens family and the Warrens Occult Museum. And we were getting some wild stuff coming from that Shadow Doll. Now, I don't know if you ever heard the story of the Shadow Doll.
I haven't actually.
The Shadow Doll is made out of animal bone and animal hair, and it's got a human tooth sticking out of its mouth.
Okay, yeah.
It is used for curses. You take a picture of that Shadow Doll, you write the person you want to curse name on the back of the picture, and you send it to them in the mail. When they open it up and they see that picture and read their name on the back, the curse has begun. They go to sleep and they have a massive heart attack and die. And that thing shut down a whole power grid in Connecticut. And so that's one of the creepy stories about the Shadow Doll. The Fire Doll She burnt down a whole orphanage burnt down, killing a whole bunch of kids. That is the only object in the orphanage that didn't burn. Everything
Right.
else gone except for that thing. That's the only thing that survived that fire.
Right.
And it's crazy. That doll is really creepy. The hands were all taped up on it. The eyes follow you when you walk.
Oh yeah, that's that's a scary doll for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We also take items out of people's houses that are haunted. We took some haunted dolls out of somebody's house, and they are now locked up in the Warrens Occult Museum. So one doll,
I mean,
she
it's kind of crazy. It's like people use it as like selling items on eBay. This is a haunted doll, and people go nuts. I'm like, I don't know if you know how exactly how dangerous this possibly is, you know?
yeah, they can be dangerous. They're vessels, and a doll is the perfect vessel for an diabolical force because what do you want to do with a doll? You're going to want to hold it, cuddle it. That's an invite. So you're inviting it, and it's mixing with your heart chakra. So you're giving that entity the perfect hotbed of activity to attach to. And the case with these dolls, they were terrorizing a blind woman who could only see like shadows and bright lights, and that's all she can see. Well, these were wreaking havoc around her house. You've seen these black figures and these bright looking figures in her kitchen, and he sent us pictures of the dolls. In each picture, the dolls are turning their heads, they're grinning, and we took them to a Paracon the next day because we were on the haunted object panel. We had them setting out on the table. There was a team across from us running equipment, and the dolls were coming through on their equipment. And the one kept saying, "He lied, kill him, hit him with a shovel."
Dang.
They, they come over to tell us, and we had this one little doll. She's only about this big. Her eyes are gouged out. Our client called her Little Annabelle, and she started causing heart palpitations on the one lady. She had to back away from our table.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we go downstairs to do, they did double Estes with that one doll, and the doll was calling my name, called an investor's name whose name has been changed 16 years ago that nobody knows, and it was calling her by her original name. So that's how you can tell that thing is demonic because it knew her original name
Yeah.
that nobody else knew. And that doll, she made a whole room go black. We thought it was shadow play from the clouds in the sun. Look out the window, there's not even a cloud in the
Not
sky.
oh wow.
And when we were counting them out of Estes, my buddy Mike from Mysterious Mike and Sam, he was counting them out of Estes, and it was counting for him. It didn't want to talk. It kept yelling at me to take it back where I got it. And I said it wasn't going back. And the other ones, they were wreaking havoc. Like I said, they would turn, grin. So they are now locked up in the Warrens Cult Museum, except for the one that they did Estes with. Another investigator took that doll, has it at their house. So,
Nothing more terrifying than evil dolls. I mean,
yep.
that's
Well,
top
if
of
you
them.
look at like your Amish culture, if you look at their kids' dolls, they have no face because the Amish believe when you're looking into the eyes of those dolls, you're looking into the eyes of the devil.
Okay.
So their dolls have no faces, no eyes. And I mean, we get called all the time for haunted objects, and in fact, we just put some more objects in the Warrens Occult Museum. This was a case we did in Oklahoma. The guy was doing some demonic worshiping in his house, and he had a book on witchcraft and how to sacrifice and kill people. They were using a Buddhist sing bowl for demonic practices. black candles. So the guy's mom called us in because she was concerned about her grandkids. He had a 9 and a 10-year-old and a 19-year-old in the house. So, and this happened, this house is down on the Trail of Tears in Oklahoma.
So even
So,
more emotion already dumped
yeah,
into it.
you've already got your emotion, you got your violent history, and supposedly 2 girls that went missing in the 90s, maybe possibly buried somewhere in the woods out behind their house somewhere. So, with him playing with the demonic practice stuff and the occult stuff, he was just conjuring up a perfect hotbed of activity. And so my dad and I go down there because it was short notice and we dropped everything, being there's kids involved. They take first priority for
Oh,
us.
for sure.
And so we go down there. He tells us what he's into. He had a goat's head necklace. So I confiscated all the items. Well, he ended up conjuring something bad in his house that I was investigating. Nothing happened for a while till it hit about 1:30 in the morning. I come out, take a break. We're just gonna sit, watch cameras, let the cameras do the work for a little bit. While we're watching the one camera, my dad says, "Look, the camera's sitting there pulsating." And kept watching it, kept watching. And this black figure appeared in it, and that thing was probably over 6 foot tall, maybe 6'5". Could have been taller than that, but it got worse. The camera. And I said, "I'm gonna go check it out. Keep an eye on it." I go in that back hallway, and I'm staring this figure straight down. He's at the end of the hallway looking at me. And I could feel the immense pressure. I knew it was something bad. It wasn't human. And I grabbed a hold of my St. Benedict's medal, and this figure dropped down to 5 feet, come running at me and disappeared right at my legs. And
Hmm.
I ended up with 3 scratches down my arm
Oh my gosh.
that looked like razors. And I was like, yep, we're dealing with something demonic. And the guy didn't want to do our cleansing. And I advised the family, the mom, I said, look, get these grandkids out of here because he's not doing our cleansing. He's not going to follow our instructions. It's just going to come right back again. He's just going to conjure it right back up, and them kids are going to be in danger.
I mean, at trying to conjure anything, it's never going to end well. I don't know why people keep insisting on
Yeah,
playing
and
with it. You're not playing, man, you know?
no, and I mean, I've seen people's eyes rolling in the back of their heads. I've seen upside down crosses get scratched in them. And so he's like, I'm not going to do your cleansing. I cleansed the house. He reverted back to his old ways, and this that case was unsolvable and didn't have a very good ending to it. He tried to kill his girlfriend shortly after we left. They were going down the road, and he said he just flipped, his eyes turned black, and he tried to strangle her. And she dove out of a vehicle at 70 miles an hour. And the mom followed our instructions and got the kids out of there. The daughter moved out with her boyfriend. And so never heard from him again. The guy didn't really want us there, but it was his mom's property, and she went through all his stuff and found a lot of his demonic pictures, everything, and she burned them. And I said, I will take the physical items out of here. And
Yeah. Oh
they
my gosh.
they just went into the Warrens Occult Museum a couple weekends ago.
That was fairly recent then.
Yep. But the case, I've had them here for a couple years, but I don't keep them inside my house. They stay out in the shed.
I'll bet.
And we had them at a Paracon just to educate people on these items. And this was in Kansas that we were at, and we had some cat balls sitting on top of them, and they were going off. And then the one team come over to us, and they were getting bad vibes from it. Had my phone sit next to it. Now my phone's got the side button on it for the Gemini.
Right.
That started talking on its own. I was like, well, it's time to spray them again. So I ended up spraying the whole case down again with holy water. And then shortly after, the ceiling fell in at the Paracon, and about 10 gallons of water come flying down.
Oh my gosh.
Don't know if that was just force of habit, maybe with the roof, but
Well, yeah, the timing there can,
yep.
makes that.
But at
Well,
Rock Island, they went to the Warrens Occult Museum. So
it'd be like the most dangerous place on earth.
right, but yeah, I mean, people play with this stuff. It's not a game. I
No.
mean, there is things out there. I mean, even though your demonic entities are rare, they are there. They lay in dormant. They can lay for years and years and years until they pick its perfect target. They come out, or you're playing with Ouija boards when you're younger and you don't close the door. I
And there,
mean, Ouija boards is all how you set your intent. I mean, it's like doing your spirit boxes. You have to
right.
set your spirit boxes just like Ouija boards. If you're gonna set bad intentions, you're gonna have something better.
And a lot of times if you're messing with that stuff, you probably got creepy intentions to begin with. That's you're going for that
Yep.
little thrill, and
Yep.
there you go.
I mean, the one Mormon massacre site by us, kids would go down there and play with Ouija boards, and because they hear the urban legend that it's haunted, because 17 people were killed there and thrown down a well. And I mean, the place is haunted. We've investigated it several times. We've done it on the anniversary of the massacre, which happened on October 30th of 1838, and we got surrounded when we were down there by stuff. We had motion lights going on and off on all the tree stumps. My millimeter REM pod was going crazy. It's an open field, so nothing
Yeah.
should be spiking down there because there's no electricity.
Yeah, there's no power source down there, so
And so it kicked up that night. The video is actually on my TikTok page, and we go all over the place investigating. I mean, we've done stuff in Ohio, Missouri State. We've done stuff in Oklahoma. We've done Gettysburg.
all
That
right.
that is a pretty interesting place, Gettysburg, the battlefields.
Yeah, yeah.
We were investigating during the day. We were up on Little Round Top that overlooks Devil's Den, and I happened to walk up to the statue of General Warren, and I look down over the hill, and there's a rock formation standing up, and I see this peeking out at. It was a gray uniformed soldier, and it looked at me and then ducked back in, kind of like, "Oh, that's the enemy."
Oh yeah, okay.
And I don't know if it knew I have connections to the Civil War because my cousin was killed there.
Hmm.
John Franklin Reynolds is my cousin who was killed at Reynolds Wood. He shot off his horse by a sharpshooter. So we were still up there on Devil's Den, and we hear a loud cannon go off. Look, and you see where the triangular field is. The bloody field's right down below there. You see smoke rolling up over the trees. So we flagged the ranger down. We said, "Are they doing any reenactments on the battlefields?" He says, "No, they're not allowed to." I said, "Well, we just heard a cannon go off." He says, "We just heard that too." I said, "Well, we saw smoke rolling up over the trees down there." So our our next stop was down there, and we went down to the bloody field and we started investigating. And I was live on Facebook and walking towards the back, my camera panned and caught a figure
Hmm.
on the camera. It was a Chinese man in Chinese armor
Huh.
along the edge of the woods, which they had a few Chinese fight in Civil War in Gettysburg. So we that night we went and investigated the orphanage. We went on the ghost tour, and sitting there, the tour guide, we had all the lights out. We had one of those tripwires lights that react to if you walk by it, EMF. It'll set each one of the lights off, and it's in a string of lights. And as the tour guide was telling the history about the woman that was in charge of the orphanage, the tripwire was going crazy in the next room. And we were sitting there watching it as it was going crazy. So we go downstairs, and she's letting everybody experience what it's like to be in the hole where they would throw the bad kids in the dark. And you get in that hole, and you can just feel the dread. Kids would die in there.
Mm.
You can still smell like urine and everything in there. And had a lady come out of there, and she didn't look right. And said to her, "You okay?" Like, I'm not feeling right. So ended up having to give her a cleansing and get her spirit back in shape because she was getting him drained. So our tour guide let us. He says, "Being you're related to the Warrens, I'm gonna let you guys investigate an extra 15 minutes while everybody leaves." So we did a Estes method up there, and got several pictures of the mistress and there. My dad, while we went downstairs, he stayed up there and sat at the bench, and he saw the mistress actually walking
Oh.
through, because he also has abilities as well, because he had an NDE back in the 70s, and I had one when I was 12.
Okay.
Both have the clairvoyancy abilities to see them. And he was watching the mistress actually walk pace through there. Well, Tom, he lives right in the old mistress's room up there in the apartment where she used to stay. And so we go back to the battlefields the next day, and we go up to Jenny Wade's grave to pay respect to Jenny Wade, and this hawk lands on one of the stones, and it just sits there,
Huh.
and it's screeching at us. And I was telling us that that's Jenny Wade saying, and then if, after it screeched a couple times, it flew off.
Huh.
And I went down through Devil's Den, and I walked the whole top half, and I was live on Facebook showing my viewers, and I reviewed the audio, and you can hear boots marching with me, and then you
Huh.
hear horses galloping. So I go down a little ways down past the bottom of Devil's Den to walk that, and you could hear and you could feel it, like you weren't alone down there, and you can hear people walking with me, boots.
Hmm.
And it was a strange feeling. Then I got up in the woods up there, and I found out that's where they used to bring the soldiers in and out on train cars.
Okay.
And that's also where the Southern soldiers they tried to ambush Little Round Top in them woods, and they didn't make it.
Right.
And another interesting one, we do this house over in Lawson, Missouri. We're related to them, and my dad was sitting there in their living room watching the cameras, and we're all outside investigating the property. Nobody's in the house but him. he hears little kids running upstairs, back and forth. He looks up and he sees a little boy and a little girl running back and forth up there.
Huh.
Now, the place has confirmed history of slaves. It's got Native Americans, the Battle of Crooked River, which is the other Mormon massacre that happened a few days before Hans Mill massacre. Jesse James has been through there. The family used to hide Jesse and his crew out,
Okay.
and all hours of the night out there, you'll hear gunfire going off. The last time we were out there, we heard cannons firing in the middle of the night. And I asked the owner, I was like, is that common? He says, yeah, we hear random cannon,
Yeah.
gunfire, all hours of the night. Go up to the farmhouse. They have an abandoned farmhouse, which used to be his grandparents. They just mysteriously up and left one day. Left all their belongings, everything. Didn't say nothing to nobody. Well,
Nope, we out of here.
I got talking to the owner, and he called one of his kids because one of his kids used to stay there when the grandparents lived there, and he used to see a woman in white. I said, oh, okay, that explains the woman I saw in the window. Before I knew that, we set up cameras up there outside the farmhouse because the farmhouse you can't get into. It's fallen down, not safe. So, plus there's rattlesnakes all around it.
Yeah.
And I got done setting cameras up. I'm looking up in the third floor window. The owner comes over to me. He says, you see something up there? I said, yeah, there's a woman dressed in white, a white dress, looking out the window at us. She's not saying anything, doing anything. She's just staring at us. I was like, snap a picture. He snaps a picture. She shows up in her picture.
Oh, wow.
And it blew his mind. And then this summer, we were back out at Missouri State Penitentiary. And this was the Get Haunted book signing. And we started off in Death Row with my buddy Bill Bryan from Empty Casket Paranormal. And we're standing there, and my dad sees a shadow figure going in and out of the cells. And we had a girl that was filming the event. She wasn't filming for the paranormal, just the event. She caught it on her camera.
You caught it on camera. That's amazing.
So Bill's like, we're going to split up. And I said, Bill, I'll take my dad and my group of friends and we'll go to the other side of Death Row. He said, okay, we'll stay on this side of Death Row. He said, just use your senses. Don't use any of the equipment right now. So walk over. I walked in one of the cells and I laid down in one of the bunks. And immediately you could feel, and even the rest of my dad felt it, like you don't belong in that bunk. Almost like the inmate saying, hey, that's my bunk.
Yeah, that's my bed, yeah.
And they seen a shadow down at the end of the hallway, and down at the end of the hallway there is where the rat cells are, and an inmate had gotten stabbed right there to death by 6 inmates in front of a guard. The guard couldn't do nothing about it because back then they were only armed with like a club and a whistle.
Right.
So we go walking down through. My dad walks through first. My friend Linda walks through, and my friend Ashley walks through, and she feels something go like this on the top of her head, and then her arm. Thought it was cobwebs. So I come walking through, and I feel something go like this on my arm, and I'm taking my light looking for cobwebs. There's nothing.
Of course there is.
So
yeah.
So I actually reached out to Sheila, who is the the head one of the tour guides, he says, I had inmates in there and cleaned that cell block. There's no cobwebs.
Oh my gosh.
So
The physical stuff, man, that's just
yeah,
on next
it's
level, you know? Yeah.
and both time, 2 times that I've been there 3 times, but 2 out of the 3, I've walked out that looked like someone had taken a cigarette and burned my arm with it. First time was inside my bicep. This summer it was in my forearm. And so we moved on, and my dad went to the lobby. He likes investigating the lobby, and he was sitting there watching stuff in the one cell where they used to let the inmates go to use the phones and stuff like that. So we went up to the women's prison with my buddy Joe and Dom from Next to Kin Paranormal, and we were doing the human pendulum.
Right.
And as we were doing it, we had some guy in our group, his brother was coming through.
Hmm.
And then we had another girl that was using dowsing rods. So we let the guy talk to his brother for a little bit, and then the brother kind of faded away, and then some woman come through. And Joe was trying to talk to her, and he was getting pushed out of the conversation. She wasn't talking to him. And so I said, would you like to talk to me? And the dowsing rods went no. And so Joe asked, who don't you like here? Pointed at him and then pointed at me. And I asked, do we resemble a guard? And it was yes.
Okay.
That's why him and I, and we're both like looking at each other like we'd never been pushed out of conversations before with spirits. And it was like, they did not want to talk to us. They
Did
wanted to talk to the ladies.
yeah. The pendulum is like where you use a person and they push them back for yes or for
Yep.
no, or how
Yep.
you let them establish
Yep.
it. And the
Yep.
dowsing rods are like the rods for
Yep.
cross them for yes, or just in
Yep.
case people aren't tracking it. Then
Yep. And the first time I saw that was the first time the Devil's on the Run tour. We did the human pendulum down in 3D. That's the first time I've seen it done, and we got great results with that. We were talking to a woman down there in 3D that wanted to talk to me. She remembered me from being there the year before, and
right.
she thought I was nice and respectful, so she wanted to talk to me again.
Well,
But
that's the key too. Just be respectful. They're not your dancing monkeys, you know.
no. And I mean, that's even like your darker stuff. You want to be respectful to that too, because you don't want to ever challenge something dark
Right.
because it's going to wreak havoc. You never want to invite it. Don't cuss at it because it will show you its true meaning, and they are the perfect flyers. They can disguise themselves very well.
Um. All right, we're actually going to have to wrap this up here because, and I'm not just saying this for the show. I came in with 80% battery, and during the Waverly Hills, shrunk to 20, and I was feeling a little sick. But after we stopped talking about it, everything went normal. But my battery's about to die. I'm not saying
It's
it's
gonna happen.
related, but it sure seems to be.
Well, usually when you talk about darker stuff and stuff like that, it affects electronics. My mic and stuff will cut out when I talk about it. That's because, and this is something that Ed Warren always said, and Wade, who is an original Nesker member, he even tells me they don't like to be exposed, and when you talk about them, they'll manipulate your electronics.
I'll say, yeah, like and just when we was talking about Waverly, yeah, it shrunk right down, and I was getting a little nauseated, and as soon as we got off it, I'm good to go. But
Mhm.
batteries. No, should I mention it, or he's probably just gonna think I'm making it up? But I promise you.
Oh yeah, it drains them. That's what they use to draw energy.
And that's before I let you go here, I just want people to know that they're experiencing phenomena in their home or things are going on. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And there is hope and there is help. And especially here, we're going to give them a way to contact you guys. And
You can contact us through Facebook, Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri, Cold Spotters Missouri. You can find us on TikTok, BLPRMO. We're on Instagram, BLPRMO. We're on YouTube, Beyond Life Paranormal Research. You can even type in Paranormal Investigators of Missouri on Google, and we're the first group that pops up. We're also listed in all the group directories for the state of Missouri. So we're here to help, and that's what we do. We're one of the residential. We still do residential, so not many teams do it anymore. And if you got something dark, we will come out and handle that as well. So
Yes, know that they're not crazy, you're not alone, and there is help. And
no,
if you're, not here in Missouri, look it up, do your research online because they're not all created the same. But yeah,
yep,
find the good
and
ones. You don't have to live like that. It's your home, and you need to feel safe there.
we do travel, so we don't just stay in Missouri. So if you need us in another state, holler at us. We'll be there. Especially if you got kids in the home, they take first priority for us. We'll drop everything to come out and help the child.
All right, well, I sure appreciate you coming on, and
Oh, I
happy
thank you
Halloween
for having me. Yeah, same to you.
from everyone here at Brilliant Studios. We want to wish you a happy and a safe, and most definitely a weird Halloween. As you go out tonight, be careful because some of the spirits and monsters you encounter just might be all too real because it can get dark out there. Happy Halloween, y'all.